Come along, come along with me. Side by side, hand in hand, the way it's supposed to be. Respect one another, let love take the lead. So come along, come along, come along with me. Take control, but darkness sometimes finds a way to bleed into your soul. If we're lost in stormy weather, we can ride it out together, and the light that leads us home will be our own. Come along, come along, come along with me. Side by side, hand in hand, the way it's supposed to be. Respect one another, let love take the lead. So come along, come along, come along with me. Do we really know we don't see eye to eye? When we haven't ever broken bread, we've never even tried. At one time we were strangers.
Oh, hey there. And welcome to episode 4 of Big Red's Kitchen. Of course, thanks for JJ Voss. Big shout out to him. Of course, he is Saskatchewan homegrown country music artist. And you can check out his music on Facebook, Instagram, and you really should, because he does have a new web series coming out that we're going to hear some announcements about very, very soon. Also, this guy is a baller. He's still doing live shows, so you make sure that you check him out. Estevan, Indian Head, Moose Jaw, Regina, Prince Albert. You can check out all that information for live show dates on jjvoss.com. All right, well, let's start episode 4. Over the last couple of weeks, you guys have been watching my shows. A lot of my friends, family, even strangers have been watching the show. I'm getting a lot of messages, and some of those messages weren't so nice. Some of them said, "Hey, Big Red, you're looking a little bit bigger than you used to. What's going on there?" And so thanks, Mom, for that message. And so I guess what we're going to do today is we're going to explore some peasant food, because peasants, they're not fat. What we're going to do is, that's why you're seeing so many beautiful, healthy ingredients. We're going to make something that is for the meager, just so that maybe I can lose a little bit of weight this week. We'll see how that works. I'm going to be drinking about at least 400 to 600 calories worth of this stuff, but we're going to try. Anyways, so that's why you're seeing all these healthy ingredients in front of me. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to go to Italy. And I've got a love-hate relationship with Italy. Italy is home to some of the best food in the world, if not the best food in the world. Although the fact is that they are absolutely home to the most annoying soccer fans on the face of the planet as well. So, as I said, yin yang, oh well. Food's delicious though, and that's what we're here for. So, what we're going to do is we're going to do a ribollita. Now, a ribollita in Italian means twice boiled. So essentially what happened is that the peasants, or the working class, so to speak, they would get root vegetables, all kinds of different vegetables, put them together with beans, some tomato, spinach, and then what they would do is they would let that simmer, and it would simmer for a couple days. And it's also known as a bread stew. And the bread, so stale bread or day-old bread, whatever they could really get their hands on, is what they would put into the pot to thicken it, and it would become more of a stew over time. So that's why it's a soup, a stew. But we're going to explore this wonderful dish, and you know what? With a lot of things, I mean, we're talking hundreds of years old dish here, and nowadays, I mean, this kind of food, you can find it in a restaurant and they charge a huge amount of money for it because it's delicious. So when I'm joking about it being peasant food, it's absolutely not. It's absolutely delicious. And again, the ingredients are going to make this dish. So stick around and we're going to figure this all out, put it all together, and I guarantee you it's going to be goddamn delicious. All right, so we need ingredients. to go into this beautiful dish. And they are displayed right here. So we've got some spinach. Now, I've got a friend. His name is Mike Madden. He's a very accomplished chef in his own right. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. And he was actually trained in Tuscany. So he's probably going to get mad at me for some of these ingredients because they're not actual Tuscan ingredients. Usually what they would use in Tuscany would be Tuscan kale, which I could not find anywhere. So spinach is what we're using. The other thing that we have is navy beans. We've got red onion, celery. We've got minced garlic. We've got red chili flake, or red pepper flake, I guess. Rosemary. Sorry, no, this is thyme. And then we've also got some just run-of-the-mill tomato paste as well. And this is usually a vegetarian dish, but Big Red doesn't play that way. So we're going to do some beautiful pancetta as well off the top. Of course, got to have the staple butter, and that's pretty much it, except for two wet ingredients. We've got our diced or crushed tomatoes, and also, again, you can use vegetable broth, or that's what they use. Well, they probably used water, being the peasants that they were, but we've got bone broth here. So this is chicken bone broth, and it's going to add a beautiful flavor to this dish as well. So this is essentially everything that goes in except for salt and pepper. And, well, let's get building. All right, so I've got my Dutch oven here, and you can use any real pan as long as it's wide on the bottom and it's got a little bit of depth to it because it is a soup. We've got a little heat on this. We're going to put a little bit of olive oil in there, and also what they would call in England a knob of butter. And that's good there. And we're going to let that cook down a little bit. Might as well get the fun stuff in, pancetta. We want the fat to render out a little bit, so we're going to add that nice and early. Make sure all that goes in there. And we're going to let this simmer down a little bit. Oopsie. That reminds me. Multitasking. All right, so we've got the beautiful olive oil. We've got the pancetta just cooking down a little bit, and some butter. I mean, you just pretty much scoop this onto a piece of bread and I'd be happy, but that's not the dish today. That's more about 1 o'clock in the morning after, well, a couple more beverages. So what we're going to add now is we're going to add some onion as well. Let that cook down a little bit too. And I like to use a lot of onion because I love the flavor of onion. It's just really one of my favorites. And it really works well with tomato, and we're going to be putting a lot of tomato into this as well. So we're going to put that in. We're also going to add the celery at this point in time. Celery's good. It's already smelling so good. We're going to add the garlic. Lots of garlic. You see that? Oh my God, delicious. And we're going to add the chili flake or red pepper flake, whatever you want to call it. And because we really want the flavor to develop, we're going to add these 3 or 4 sprigs of thyme as well. And so we're doing this on pretty medium-high heat. We don't want anything to brown. We really want it to just kind of cook a little bit. Again, it's going to be a soup / stew, so all these flavors are really going to come together anyways. Release some of those tastes and get them all mingling together like a happy little family. This is when we can open up another offering. This one's a Rodler. Nice and refreshing. Keeps you hydrated on those hot summer days and cold winter. It's snowing right now, so it's goddamn frustrating, but it is what it is. It smells really good in here. I wish we had smell-o-vision or whatever that Futurama episode was, because it does smell really good in here right now. And what we're going to add right now is, well, we're going to do a little bit of a trick here with some beans. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take some of these beans and we're just going to take them away. And I'm going to dump these in there. Those will go right in. Good stuff. Love those beans. And as I said, these are a navy bean. Again, Mike would be mad. They would use cannellini beans in Tuscany, which is essentially a white kidney bean, but I got these instead. Now, this is a little trick. And so we discussed, like, this is, usually they would use water instead of bone broth. We're kicking it up a notch in flavor here. But they didn't really use too many thickeners except for the bread. So you could attack it two ways. And by doing this, by just kind of giving the beans a little bit of a press and just kind of starching them out, getting some of the tissue and sinew broken down, what we can do is we can actually thicken the stew that way as well. So that's what we're doing. So releases a little bit of the paste in there, and I'm gonna add that in there too. It's almost like a refried bean, almost, that we borrow from Mexican cooking, but it's gonna add some thickness to the broth once we add that in there as well. So at this point in time, we're going to get ready for some wet ingredients. And that means that we are going to add 1 large can of tomatoes with all the juices. We didn't separate it or anything like that. And that's when we get this nice tomato flavor in there. I mean, you can already see. You can see why, with cheap and simple ingredients, that this was something that would sustain people for, a couple of days. It's nice and hearty. There's a lot of stuff going on. Lots of good, nutritious food that would really, make it able to go slave away and plow on the fields or whatever the hell peasants do. And a little tomato paste. It's also a thickener, but also to give it a little flavor as well. Put that in there. I find that tomato paste adds a nice bitter note to a lot of dishes, which I like as well, especially pasta sauces. It really adds to it to me. And then finally, we've got some bone broth, which we're going to put in. And we're going to just do it all. There we go. And so this is already starting to look like a pretty damn good soup. Now, we're going to let this simmer off. So this is going to simmer down. All those lovely flavors are going to mingle, and we're going to let this just chill out for about 25 minutes. So do whatever you feel like doing for 25 minutes. It really doesn't matter. And then we're going to add a couple more ingredients, and then, well, we'll see what's next. God damn, that's a good one. I believe in German it would be pronounced Märzen, But Mars and whatever fest beer, really good. I hadn't had this one before. Really, really works well. All right, so this has been going for about 20 minutes. So we're not quite at that 25 that we talked about, but figured I'd come back and say what's up. So it's cooked down a lot. It's gotten a little thicker. It's looking really good. Now it's time to add a couple of the last ingredients. The big one being spinach. So we're just going to literally, and I know it looks like a shitload of spinach. It's not. It's all gonna kind of welt down or get reduced, I guess, and I don't know what you call it. I think it's welt. I think that's the way it is, but whatever. And we're just gonna let this kind of sit on top. We don't have to do much. It's gonna just wilt. That was the word I was looking for. Wilt. It's gonna wilt. It's gonna become a lot smaller, and it's gonna join the juices, as one would say. And then what we've also got to do here is, and I'll bring over a cutting board with knife, and so I bought this yesterday, so it is true, day old bread. And just gonna cut off a little section here like that. We gotta have dippy bread too. And I'm just gonna cut this off. And we don't need to use a bread knife. And like, this isn't gonna get, it's not gonna be like soggy bread in there. It's actually gonna dissolve in there. And it's going to actually add a little thickness to the entire experience here that we're creating. And then we're gonna add, oh, we got one escape soldier here. There we go. Traditionally, what we would do, and I think we are gonna do it right now because, well, we've got a little bit of time before the fiance yells at me and tells me that she's starving. So I'm actually going to just shut off the heat completely and let this sit for a little bit. I want to be as close to traditional as possible, and it is called twice boiled. That's what Ribollita means. So therefore, that's what we're going to do. We're going to let this sit and wait and wait and then wait some more. And then right in the nick of time before I'm not getting married anymore, we're going to boil it up again, and that's when we're going to serve, and that's when we'll be back. All right, so what I did while you guys were gone too is I just cooked off a couple crostinis here, and essentially all that means is a little Parmesan on there, a little bit of balsamic. No big deal. That was really hot. Don't do that. And I've also brought this back up to some heat. So that means that, I'll put this over here. That means that we're really almost there to plate. The only thing that we got to add here, I'll be honest with you, this is kind of what confused me about a lot of the recipes that I saw. I've eaten this before in restaurants. I've cooked it before, but I want to do right by you guys. And so I always research the recipes a little bit before. And in this case, what they told me to do is that every single recipe that I saw always had Parmesan Reggiano on it. And to me, it doesn't make any sense because we're talking about peasant food. How the hell are peasants going to be able to afford delicious Parmesan Reggiano? I mean, it's named after a fucking king. It's Reggiano. That means king. But I digress. We're going to add a little Parmesan. More than a little bit, actually. We're going to go with almost a full cup. And we're going to add that in there. And I mean, I can't really fault whoever wrote all of these recipes because This is really going to kick it up a notch and make the flavor really beautiful. But I'm still on the fence on whether this is part of the traditional recipe or not. This is a delectable looking stew at this point in time. The smell is amazing. That cheese is just going to melt right in there. And we're ready to plate at this point in time. So fiance will be happy. Her stomach's growling. That's okay. We wait for the good things in life. That's why I didn't get engaged until my mid-30s. We'll be plating in a second. All right, so now we're going to plate this beautiful dish. So the first thing, well, first of all, got to move it over here 1 second. And it is looking delicious. We're going to do our bowls. And so you see how it's nice and thick with the bread, and oh, this is hearty, hearty goodness. You can just smell the little bit of Parmesan that we added. Well, not a little bit. The large amount of Parmesan that we added at the end there. We'll take our crostinis. And then one little add that I'm going to go with that I don't think peasantry would be able to do is a little bit of a balsamic, just to make it look real nice at the end. Peasant soup. And I'll use a goddamn star wipe whenever I goddamn want, because this is my goddamn show.
Come along with me. Side by side, hand in hand, the way it's supposed to be. Respect one